If you've gardened long enough, you've pulled out a plant that felt almost too easy to grow. It popped up everywhere, ignored poor soil, laughed at drought, and honestly, came back even stronger every single time you disturbed it. You probably called it a weed and yanked it out without a second thought. Today I want to talk about one of those plants, a plant so resilient and nourishing that it once kept entire communities alive during famine, yet was quietly erased from seed catalogs and farming traditions, not because it failed us, but because it actually worked too well. Welcome back to Soilpower, where we dig into the forgotten wisdom beneath our feet. Long before seed catalogs, hybrid varieties, and fertilizer schedules, people relied on plants that could survive chaos, war, drought, floods, poor soil, neglect. One such plant is lamb's quarters, also known as Chenopodium album, and it's often dismissed these days as just a nuisance weed. You'll find it in disturbed soil, garden beds, compost piles, and along the edges of fields. It grows really fast, produces thousands of seeds, and honestly, it just thrives in places where other crops tend to struggle. Yet today, it's, pretty much absent from seed catalogs and rarely mentioned in modern gardening guides. Lamb's quarters didn't disappear because it lacked value. It disappeared because, well, it just didn't fit the industrial model of agriculture. This plant grows aggressively without human permission. It reseeds freely, it competes with monocrops, and most importantly, it doesn't require companies to sell it back to you year after year. As agriculture became commercialized, plants that couldn't be controlled, patented, or standardized were labeled weeds. Lamb's quarters was one of the first casualties. By the mid-20th century, it was actively discouraged, sprayed, tilled out, and culturally reframed as useless, even dangerous, despite centuries of safe use. Here's what makes this story even more shocking. Lamb's quarters is more nutritious than spinach. Its leaves are rich in protein, calcium, magnesium, potassium, iron, and vitamins A and C. In nutrient-poor soils, it still manages to accumulate minerals that many cultivated vegetables can't. The seeds, often overlooked, are equally impressive. They're closely related to quinoa, containing complete proteins and essential amino acids. In times of scarcity, people relied on these seeds to make porridge, flatbreads, and soups. This wasn't survival food in the sense of barely getting by. It was real nourishment. Historical records tell a consistent story. During crop failures, wars, and forced migrations, lamb's quarters filled the gap. In Europe, it was eaten during medieval famines. In India, it was used when grain harvests failed. In North America, indigenous communities relied on it long before colonization. The plant's ability to grow fast, mature quickly, and produce food with minimal input made it invaluable when systems collapsed, and yet, because it grows too easily, it became an enemy of modern agriculture. As gardeners, we're often taught to wage war on anything that grows without permission, but, soil doesn't make mistakes. Plants like lamb's quarters appear because, well, conditions allow them. They're indicators of disturbed, compacted, or nutrient-imbalanced soil, and they help heal it. Its deep roots loosen compacted layers, its biomass feeds soil microbes when chopped and dropped, and, its presence increases organic matter and mineral cycling. Pulling it out and throwing it away is like, honestly, ripping pages out of a survival manual. If this plant shows up in your garden, you don't need to let it take over, but you also don't need to eradicate it. Young leaves can be harvested continuously before flowering. They cook down beautifully, losing any bitterness and taking on a mild, spinach-like flavor. Older leaves are better cooked than eaten raw. If you allow a few plants to mature, you'll get thousands of seeds that will volunteer for years, your own living seed bank, adapted to your soil and climate. Instead of fighting it, manage it. Thin where necessary. Harvest regularly. Let a few plants complete their life cycle. So, this is how resilient gardens are built. Lamb's quarters isn't just about one plant, it's about a mindset we've lost. Modern gardening, often focuses on convenience, aesthetics, and control, but real resilience comes from diversity, adaptability, and humility, learning from plants that thrive without us. The plants most likely to save lives in hard times are rarely the ones sold in glossy catalogs, they're the ones already growing at your feet. By dismissing them as weeds, we've forgotten how to read the land and how to prepare for uncertainty. Reclaiming plants like lamb's quarters doesn't mean abandoning cultivated crops, it means, widening our definition of value. A truly powerful garden isn't fragile, it doesn't collapse when watering schedules fail or fertilizer runs out. Instead, it includes plants that self-seed, self-regulate, and self-heal the soil. When you allow these forgotten plants a place, you're not gardening like it's just a hobby, you're gardening like it's a skill worth passing on. If this kind of deep, practical soil wisdom speaks to you, go ahead and subscribe to Soilpower, share this article with a fellow gardener, and help bring forgotten knowledge back into the light.